Hey, I'm JD. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and please hit like. And today we're going to strip this very beautiful old Waltham, American Waltham pocket watch down for cleaning. So we're not sure if it has any problems or not. I got it kind of to run earlier this week, but it needs to be stripped down for sure. So the first thing you do when you strip a watch down is you need to align the hands so you can take the hands off carefully. And this is a full plate lever set pocket watch. So there's a lever on the side right here, and you pull that lever out like that, and that allows you to turn the crown to align the hands. Now when you have a watch like this, you want to be able to get in there with the hand removers. So if you put the watch at 12 o'clock, it's not going to work because you can't come from this side. So you actually have to put the watch at 3 o'clock like this, 3 and a bit, and then you're all set to remove the hands. Now I do have a nice little ready bin here that I can just grab stuff I always use. There's paint brushes here for cleaning and stuff. These are hand removers here, but the end ones here are very nice hand removers. They're wide, so they don't put as much pressure on the face. I've got a case opener here. Got a better case opener back, and I got a better case opener over in my tools. I got some bench keys here for pocket watches. These are hand setters, even though I will likely use my very nice professional hand setting mechanism for this watch. This here is just a hobby shop kind of poking device, and this is great for a full plate watch. And then in the back I've got just for aligning the pivots. In the back here I've got all kinds of pin vices of various types and sizes that are very useful. So that's my little ready bin. And the tweezers, of course, are in the middle there. If you look carefully at the bezel, you can see the little tiny crack right there, and that's the opening where you need to put your pocket watch opener in to open up the bezel. So that's a very small crack there. It's strange it's not up a little higher, but maybe because the lever set mechanism is kind of in the way here. So in order to take the hands off, you've got to remove the bezel and crystal. So I've got a pretty decent opener here, but I've got the high-end one as well. This one's got a nice grip on it and a very sharp blade. I like to approach it from this side, so I'm just going in here like this, and then you take your under a lot of control, right? You put the blade in, and then you just twist it, and it'll crack the bezel open, just like that. So you got to be very careful when you're doing that. And then you can remove the bezel. Since it's so clean with no fingerprints, I'm going to put a glove on. Now I actually just have to dump this into my hand here with the glove, like that. And then I've got a case open already for putting parts. So I'll just put this in here for now, even though I like to keep this on my pad initially, but I'll leave it in there for now. And so that exposes the hands, and they're ready to be removed. And to remove the hands, I have this piece of plastic I've used many times, and you can put those over the hands like this to protect them, like that. And then grab my hand removers. And I can't remember where I got these, but they're high quality hand removers. I may have gotten them from China. So Mr. Trump doesn't like China, but half your crap comes from China. So this has got, these are nice and wide. So they're a lot easier to take the parts off when you've got a wide surface like that, because it doesn't risk cracking the actual face of the watch. So once I've got those removed, I'll just put them aside very carefully. This one is not off yet. So I'll go underneath here again and pry this one off. Should have come off, but I just needed to give it a little bit more. What for? There we go. So that's off now. And I'll just take this and put these aside. Sometimes these are bent because the owner gets the hand snagged up with the second hand and then just doesn't pay attention and kind of bends the actual hand. So I see that happen quite a lot. So here, these hands here are very difficult to take off with the plastic. I have other hand removers that are more precise, but I find that using my very small screwdriver is usually the best option to get underneath the second hand. because it's just like that. So you just rotate in opposite directions, and that frees it up so it's exposed. So now that it's up higher, I can grab my smaller hand removers here like this, grab these things, hang on. I'm getting them out of that bin I talked to you about earlier. And I could put the plastic on now because I think that it's, well, they're raised up enough to get these underneath with the plastic on. So I can do this now and go underneath the hand and then just lift it up like that. And so that protects the face of the watch by not scratching it at all. And you can see there's no marks or anything from doing it that way. And that's the seconds hand. They're a little bit difficult to get a hold of sometimes. So there's the face of the watch, and now I want to take the movement out of the watch. So let's just turn this nice case around. I love this case, by the way. It's a size 18 watch, and the case is a little bit stiff, so I'll likely lubricate the hinge later on. And here's the movement here. With this kind of movement, it's actually possible for me to take the balance out right now, and that would be a little bit more careful to ensure that the balance doesn't get snagged on anything. So I think I'll do that, just remove the balance. I often use a stick to hold the balance down, but in this case I don't need to, so I'm just going to take this screw out like that, put that in the case, and I think this balance can lift straight up. Let's see how loose it is. Yeah, it is. So it can lift straight up and out, which is absolutely perfect, right? And then I have a balance tack for that. I can use my infamous dunker tank that you've all heard about and got rave reviews, that I designed to help clean balances without concerning yourself about damaging the balance itself. So here's the dunker tank, and I put a piece of faux leather on there, and that just supports. So I drop that down, and that supports the balance. So if I don't want it to squish as much, I just lower it like that, and that's good there. I think that's fine there. And now the hairspring is not under any stress, as you can see. It's just sitting there nicely. So I can take this whole thing with a couple of Canadian loonies on there, and these are all, as you can see, the platform raises up, and I use this to actually wash that balance off nicely under control. Just move that out of the way. And now I've got the movement here, and I'm not concerned about snagging the balance at all, which is really good. Now in this movement, it's got half screws here, or 3/4 screws. So this is supposed to ease the removal of the movement from the case, as you just need to turn it halfway and then lower it. But I find that you should actually remove these screws completely and put them aside, because they can snag up when you're trying to take the balance out. So I just put those screws in the same area of the container where I put the balance cock screw. So I can remove this now, like that. Be very careful with the screwdriver. You kind of have to hold the screwdriver and don't let it drop down, so you don't want to scratch the face of the movement. It's a very beautiful movement. And you do that, and then this movement should come right out. Now this will not move out because it's a lever set movement, but if I loosen the screw, this will come out. But I believe that because it's a lever set, this movement will rotate straight out. So let's see if I can just rotate this movement straight out with this hand. So take it like this, and then grab it firmly like this, and then give it a little bit of pressure and drop it down. And there we go. And that's the case, and we'll work on lubricating the hinges later on this case. I'll just move this out of the way. And there is the movement, and I have a Bergeron 5395 gelled. This is a gelled movement holder, so this is very nice. It's good material. And so this movement, it's a full plate movement. It's in very good condition, and it has got this rim here, this ring here is for dust protection. So they have a couple of little areas here where you can get a screwdriver in here, and I'll remove this for now because I want to take the dust cover off. And you can just rotate your screwdriver like that, and then find another crack. And there's usually tabs that line up with the watch movement that allow you to do this. So you just do this to very carefully remove that ring, and you can tell when it loosens up. And the ring's wider on the bottom than it is on the top, so it's pretty easy to put in, but you got to line where the stem goes through the next time you put this thing together. So I'm just going to put this aside here, put the ring aside, and I want to take the face off and put that in a place where it won't get damaged. So I can take the face off by removing the dial screws here. I'm going to get a little bit closer and dirtier into my work here. There we go. Now I can see a bit better and make sure the screwdriver is in the right position. Yeah, there we go. And I usually take the dial screws part of the way out, and then I screw them back in for cleaning. So there's another dial screw. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. I'm not sure what the pressure is on the mainspring right now. But I have to figure out how to actually relieve the pressure from the mainspring. And it's usually this little lever here that you flick over. But you want to do it under control. So I have to get a bench key out to support that while I'm doing it. So, and there's another dial foot screw right there. I can just loosen that up. I've done a lot of full plate watches. I haven't done one in a little while, but I've done a lot of them over the years. So once you get the screws loosened, the dial feet should be able to get them away from the screws. So you just raise it up like that, and then if you need to, it's actually easier to do when you don't have a glove on, but if you need to, you can get a bigger screwdriver. So there we go. So the face is now off the watch. It looks like it's in very good condition. So just going to put this aside for 2 seconds here. And what I like to do is right away I take off the hour wheel from the top like that. Just remove the hour wheel. And then if I can, which I can in this watch here, I just remove the minute wheel that interfaces with the hour wheel, and then the cannon pinion. This should just come straight up, right? There we go. That was actually easy. Sometimes they're very difficult to lift up, but this one was actually very easy, so it's just nice. It's nice. It's a nice day today for removing cannon pinions. All right, so now I've got to relieve the actual mainspring tension, right? So to do that, I find the right size winding bench key here. Grab this one here. I think this one is the right size. Let me see. Yeah, that's perfect. And you hear how that's winding it? That's what the bench key does. So I want to put a little pressure on it this way while I'm pushing this lever this way. So, and that's the click for it. So I do that, and if you just look closely, you can see that moving while I turn it. See that click, click, like that? So I just have to put a little bit of pressure on that, and then let it wind back. And I want that to wind back until there's no pressure left. That's right about there. So there's no pressure at all on there. And just put this down here for 1 second here. And just to make sure, I'll go inside the watch here, and the pallet fork is right here on this watch, and I'll just move that around, and there's no pressure at all from the various gears on that pallet fork. So it's in good condition. Yeah, so now I can get myself a movement holder to start disassembling the movement. So this is the infamous Myers number 58 movement holder, and very hard to get these days. They'll run you, when they go on eBay for bidding, they usually get up to $350 to $400 for one of these movement holders. So this is what the case looks like for it, like that. Your third hand, and it's got all sorts of different size fittings in here. So, and what I find very useful with this movement holder is that right on the edge here, you see that angle right there? That angle ensures that it's grabbed the movement completely and it's not going to go anywhere. So when you put the movement inside the movement holder, there's a button on this side that lets you move this part back and forth so you can size it, and that rides along the screws. So what I do is I make sure that the lever of the lever set mechanism is not in the way. So it's right there, so I want that lever to be kind of out of the way, although I don't think anything would be involved in crushing it right now. So you put it in like that, and then you tighten it up here, right, and it tightens, but what it's doing is it's tightening a spring in there, and then the spring is tightening that part of the movement holder over. So now it's all set to strip down the watch. So what I'll do is strip down the watch, and I'll do an overdub here as I'm stripping it down. So I'll put it in fast motion so you don't have to wait for 30 minutes for me to strip it down. All right, here I'm just stripping away the movement. This is the plate that holds the mainspring barrel in place, so I very likely take that up, no problem. And the mainspring barrel can slip right out. That's pretty handy. Back in the day when the mainsprings would break, they could replace the mainspring without having to take the complete watch apart. And here I'm taking the screws off the main plate. This is a full plate watch. These things can be a bit painful to put back together, but I've done quite a few in my time as a watchmaker, so I did notice that these gears are so gummed up that they're sticking in the jewel settings. I was hoping to be able to take those and push them down with some pegwood so I could take a picture of how they align, but what the heck, forget it. It ain't possible, so I might as well just take them apart, take a picture of the gears as they lie, and then I'll know which one goes where and what goes first and stuff like that. So there, take the 3 gears out, no problem. And then the center gear, the cannon pin has already been removed. There's the cracked jewel right there, and we'll get a picture of that jewel a little bit later. On that plate, I think all the rest of the jewels are fine. And there's the center wheel, and there's the watch stripped down. So I'm back, and the only bad news I have for this particular watch movement is that there is a cracked jewel in the movement, and the cracked jewel, I believe, is right here. And I took a picture of it with a microscope camera attachment I have, although I do have a microscope, so I could show you this on the microscope, but there it is. There's the cracked jewel sitting in the setting. So I will need to either find a setting, which might be almost impossible, or figure out how to burnish a jewel back in place here. So this has to be replaced, because this jewel, as it's cracked, will grind away at the pivot for that wheel, and that will ruin the wheel. So, and the jewel will eventually crumble. Alright, this is the fun part. So I'm going to take a picture of this first before I take it apart, so I know which way it winds. And although I could figure it out after, but I just want to take a picture of it so I know where the arbor is, which way it winds. And these mainsprings are sometimes a pain to put back in the watch, but they can be just as painful taking out to take it out of the watch. So I've got long fingernails and thank God, because these long fingernails are a blessing when it comes to working with mainsprings, because I can get the fingernail right under the mainspring like that and then kind of walk it out. I'm trying to do that right now unsuccessfully, but you don't want it to fling out, definitely. You want to have a controlled movement. Now, the problem is that I have cut my thumbnails on both sides, and they were absolutely perfect for doing this job before, and now they're not as perfect. So I'm just gonna see if I can still walk it out though. Come on, start walking. I got the arbor sort of sitting in there, floating in there. You're killing me. This thumbnail here needs to be longer. There we go. I actually don't want this to come out uncontrolled because it can be a big mess. And this is a pretty big mainspring here. This is not it's not like a clock mainspring. Those ones will take your eye out. But this one is fair size. Normally I have longer thumbnails. It makes this job a lot easier. There we go. Just dump the arbor onto my mat here. And the rest of it should be a little easier to take out now. There we go. And there's the mainspring. And in this case, I don't know whether I should order a new mainspring for this watch, because the mainspring is smaller than the watch movement. Someone said if you get a mainspring that's smaller than the watch movement, then you need a new mainspring. So I might order a new mainspring for this watch because I don't think I can give it any more power. It may be fairly set. Push it this way a little bit here to get it, flatten it out a bit. Yeah, I think that's, yeah. I'll have to look that up to see if there's any way I can revive this mainspring. I think stretching it out might do it, but we'll check that out. There's the arbor, and we'll put the arbor inside because that'll be washed as well. Washed and cleaned. So I think I'm going to fill the basket up. I used to take the setting mechanisms apart here, and I found that it's a difficult and almost impossible thing to do. It looks as though there was a new jewel put in here at one point in time as well for this watch. Somebody did it. Somebody. Yeah. So I just usually clean these in place, and I let them thoroughly dry, and then I'll oil them up. I talked to another watchmaker friend of mine who also doesn't challenge himself by taking those apart, because if you break the spring here, you have to buy another replacement movement to fix that. So it's much better just to leave it in place. They do not affect the operation of the watch. So I have a Pearl watch cleaning machine in my basement, where all watch cleaning machines should be, and I can load the baskets now. And there's various baskets for various parts of the watch, but these old watches don't have a lot of pieces to them. So it's not like me when I've worked on watches that were, I could take this off, but I don't think there's an issue here. But I have, no, let me take that off. Let me take that off. I have worked on watches that are chronographs that have a lot of parts, right? So those watches are a real challenge to work on. So the only thing about this thing here is to make sure that when I put the wheel back, that it's in the right position. And it just sort of sits there. So I don't think there's any beveling of the teeth of these wheels. So it sits. And yeah, the rough part looks like it's facing downward. So I'll just put it like this so I can remember, and I'll take a picture. Now I can remember where this thing goes when it goes back, because that goes in here, right over the this mechanism here. So I think what I'll do is I'll actually put the screw back, because it'll clean nicely with that in place. And then I don't have to concern myself about the click spring, removing the click spring. and the cleaning machine will get all in there. Then I'll take it all apart again and oil it. And sometimes when you're trying to screw a screw in, you need another screwdriver to hold it in place while you're turning the screw. Did that work? I'm not absolutely sure it did. No, I can feel the threads on the wrong side of that beastie. This is it's why it takes such a long time sometimes to actually clean a watch. There we go. And you do not want to strip the threads on any of these watches. Just want to make sure this screw here is tight. Okay. And this one is tight. This one's tight. There's no problem there. And then I can take this wheel, because this wheel will be, I'll just take a picture of this leaning on here, just so I remember when I replace this where this went. And I keep all these pictures in a file, a catalog file for this watch movement. And then I'm sure I'm absolutely sure how this goes back together again. So I put that on like this. I can turn it like this or the other way, it doesn't matter. I'll put it in like this and then put the spring on the top. If I decide to keep that mainspring, I'll stretch it out. I might keep it, see how much power it generates, because I can do that, put the mainspring back, see how much power it generates, and if it's good, it gives me a good amplitude. After I've assembled, then great, don't go buy a new mainspring for it. If I put it back together and it doesn't give me a good amplitude at all, then I can go ahead and get a new mainspring for it. So that's these plates, and then I'll take this plate here, and I can go right on the top here like this. Let me think here. What do I want to do here? I want my spring to be out of the way, so I'll put that on like that, and then this like this. There we go. So the spring is on the side here. So that's that. So that's the first container. And I just have to make sure when this goes down that there's room. It's not squishing it. And this seems to be in the way here. So I may turn all this around the other way. So stacking your bin is important. You don't want to stack it wrong, because these legs are up high. So if I turn it around like that and then put this plate down like this and then put the mainspring on top like this, then there's more real estate. I don't have to worry as much. I think that's good, and yeah, now that fits nicely. So now some of these gears, the big gears, can go in here. These are pretty big gears too. It's a size 18 watch, so it's not really a small watch. I think these ones here I'm going to put in individual baskets, and I have the individual baskets right here. And also this plate here might fit in one of these. I don't know, maybe not. I may have to put that down below as well. Let me see if I can put that right here. Yeah. And then I've got two screws and moving those aside. So it'll be evident when I put this back together where those screws came from. And the third screw there. And then I've got some smaller parts I have to deal with here. So I've got the cannon pinion, the hour wheel, and the minute wheel. I could probably basket all three of those together. And again, this isn't going to be the hard part for this particular watch. It's going to be replacing that jewel setting. So see what I can do to do that. Put that and that in the cannon pinion in the same place. Yeah, there we go. So that's one basket. Now another basket, I can put the fourth wheel in the other basket on its own. I'm going to put that with the pivot facing upward in that basket. So there it is there. So I'm going to keep the pivot facing upward here. And I think that's all I'm going to put in that basket. And then I'm going to take another basket, and this is going to hold the escapement wheel on its own. There it is there. And I'll have the pivot, the larger pivot facing upward. And then the last thing is the pallet fork, but I don't like to put that through the cleaning machine. I will wash that. I'll wash the pallet fork in alcohol. I'll hand wash that. I don't like putting it through the cleaning machine because I'm not sure about the impulse jewel and or the actual jewels on it. And I will hand wash the actual balance cock as well. So this ends up getting hand washed as well. So, but the rest of it goes into the machine. So I've got this, and then these go down here like this. I think this goes in. Oh no, actually these go in next. This goes in like that, and then these big wheels go in like this, and then this cage goes on top. And I make sure that the smooth part of the cage thing on the rim here is facing downward for the cage. So when I put it all inside here, see if I can lower that nice and carefully like this. I lower that here, get my fingers out and grab it, and then lower it some more, and then go all the way down to the bottom. There we go. So make sure that's all in there and sealed, so that's ready to be washed. I'll take the face and put that aside here, sit that on top. So the face is like this. The dust cover, I can put that like this. And so I've got the face, the hands, and some of the parts in here. I don't bother with the screws. I could throw them into the cleaning machine, but really it doesn't matter for those. And what else? I think that's it. So this is ready for cleaning, and then I will, after cleaning, I will let this dry for quite a while, even though my cleaning machine has a drying portion on it, because I have to look at that jewel to see what I'm going to do to replace that jewel, because the jewel and the setting are pretty tight in there, and I need to find a new jewel for it and see if I can press that in or what. We'll see. It's a little bit of a jeweling job. So there you go. So thanks for watching the video. I'm JD again, so we'll catch you later.